Lights, camera, action, and welcome back to Soundtrack Collector. I'm your host, Christopher Spencer, author of Film and Television Soundtracks 1950 to 1979, a critical survey by genre published by McFarlane and Company. In an era when many film scores blur into atmospheric wallpaper, Michael Giacchino brings back something rare, the melody you can hum, the theme that tells the story, and music that moves the plot as much as the pictures do. He's the guy who gave Pixar its emotional punch, Marvel its swagger, and Star Trek a whole new fanfare. He's tackled spy capers, sci-fi epics, dinosaur rampages, superhero comebacks, and animated heartbreaks, and somehow made each one sound distinctively Giacchino. From his early days scoring video games and Alias to Oscar-winning heights with Up, Giacchino has quietly and sometimes not so quietly reshaped the sound of 21st century film music. His trademarks? Big, bold themes, orchestral color, retro flair, emotional directness, and maybe most importantly, he knows how to write music that sticks. He doesn't just nod to the past, he revives it. Spy jazz a la Mancini, space adventure a la Goldsmith, even a bit of Barry-style cool, and yet it all comes filtered through his own vibrant, heartfelt voice. He treats genre work with the seriousness of a symphony and brings a kind of joy and sincerity to scoring that reminds you why you fell in love with movies in the first place. So today on Soundtrack Collector, we're counting down the top 15 Michael Giacchino scores. The ones that don't just support the story, but they are the story. The themes that define characters, the cues that made us cry, the albums we still blast in the car. So at number 15, we have his most recent work, The Fantastic Four: First Steps from 2025. When Marvel's first family returned to the screen, it needed a score as bold, weird, and cosmic as its roots, and Giacchino delivered. First Steps is retro-futurist joy from the first brass blast. The main theme practically shouts, "Fantastic Four," a 1960s style anthem that wouldn't feel out of place in a lost Johnny Quest episode. If Johnny were battling Galactus, that is. But beneath the swagger, there's real emotional depth. The Silver Surfer's theme, mournful guitar over soaring strings and choir, captures cosmic loneliness that slowly swells into tragic heroism. Galactus, he gets one of Giacchino's most menacing motifs, a rising, three-note monster in the low brass that feels like it could crack the earth in two. The action writing is classic Giacchino, rhythmic, brassy, synth-splashed, and bursting with momentum. But what really sets this score apart is how it turns nostalgia into something new. Mellotron textures, Abbey Road choirs, and subtle world percussion swirl into a sound that's part Jack Kirby fever dream, part blockbuster spectacle. It's not just a great Marvel score, it's one of the most distinctive, tuneful, and emotionally resonant superhero scores of the decade so far. Proof again that Giacchino doesn't just score films, he scores mythologies. At number 14, I have John Carter. The movie may have flopped, but Giacchino's score, a swashbuckling triumph. He approached John Carter like Lawrence of Arabia on Mars and delivered one of his grandest, most melodic works. It's bold, sweeping, and packed with that rare transportive magic that great scores possess. At its core is the John Carter theme, an 11-note motif that grows with hopeful strings to full-blown brass and choir heroism. It's the sound of a reluctant man becoming a legend. Then there's the love theme for Deja Thoris, a lush, 6-note melody that soars in John Carter of Mars, arguably one of Giacchino's most romantic pieces. For world building, he goes full tilt, tribal percussion, male chorus for the Tharks, eerie dissonance, and a 9-note motif for the Therns, like Philip Glass scoring an Alien Cult. And true to form, Giacchino doesn't just stack themes, he makes them clash, evolve, and resolve in a final act like a symphonic battle for Destiny. Recorded with a massive orchestra, choir, and haunting vocals by Azam Ali, John Carter is pure cinematic pageantry. A box office misfire, sure, but the score, an instant classic. At number 13, I have a tie, the first of a few in this list: Spider-Man No Way Home and Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's start with No Way Home, a towering achievement that juggles nostalgia, tragedy, and superhero bombast without dropping a single theme. Arachnovature, a sweeping suite that ties together Giacchino's signature Spider-Man motif with haunting new material and legacy cameos from Elfman, Horner, and Zimmer. It's emotionally intricate, thematically rich, and let's be honest, kind of a miracle. And then Aunt May falls. Giacchino answers with spare, devastating piano and cello motif that's pure grief. It's as moving as anything in Up or Rogue One. Then there's Homecoming, lighter, bouncier, and full of teen energy. Giacchino's new Spidey theme here is playful and brassy with pizzicato strings, giving it a kind of Saturday morning cartoon charm. It's not all fun though. The Vulture gets a growling low brass motif that collides with Peter's theme and in some genuinely muscular action writing. Both scores show Giacchino's range. Homecoming is quippy and agile like Peter himself. No Way Home is operatic, mature, and tinged with loss. But together they form a musical arc that evolves with character, from wide-eyed kid to self-sacrificing hero. At number 12, I have another Marvel legend, Doctor Strange. With Doctor Strange, Giacchino conjured up one of the most distinctive scores in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Part mystical epic, part 60s rock hallucination. The main theme is pure Giacchino magic, old brass, sweeping strings, and a melody arc that channels both space-age adventure and magical destiny. It's heroic, sure, but with just enough weird to keep you off balance. And this isn't just cape and brass fare. You get prepared piano, electric sitar, and even harpsichord laced into the action. Tracks like The True Purpose of a Sorcerer and Astral Doom lean into the psychedelic, evoking the original Ditko comic pages with wild colors turned into sound. The real trick? That theme evolves with character, fragmented and hesitant. Early on, it builds cue by cue until it explodes in Strange Days Ahead as full-on mystic heroism. Giacchino even works choral and ethnic elements into the darker cues, with Caecilius and the Dark Dimension steeped in ominous voices and warped textures. It's orchestral storytelling at its most kaleidoscopic. At number 11, I have Super 8. In Super 8, Giacchino doesn't just write a score, he crafts a time machine. This is music that captures the innocence of first love, the fear of the unknown, and the bittersweet glow of growing up, all wrapped in vintage Spielberg vibes. The main theme, often called the necklace theme, is pure nostalgia. Delicate strings, flutes, and piano that echo the warmth of E.T., but with Giacchino's own melodic voice. It's lyrical, sincere, and emotionally disarming. Balancing that tenderness is the monster motif, a dark four-note shape that looms large in the low brass and bassoons. And this isn't just a creature feature score. The real genius lies in how Giacchino weaves these themes together, fear and wonder, literally playing in counterpoint by the finale. You also get a wistful theme for Alice, a rigid military march, and action cues that pulse with rhythmic drive and harmonic tension. Listen to Evacuation of Lillian and try not to see every frame in your mind. Warm, thrilling, and emotionally honest, Super 8 is Giacchino at his most Spielbergian, and arguably his most human. A love letter to childhood, monsters, and melody. At 10, I have Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. With Ghost Protocol, Giacchino pulled off a mission of his own, reviving Lalo Schifrin's iconic Mission Impossible theme and giving it a fresh global makeover. This score isn't just high octane. It's globe-trotting, orchestral espionage. Giacchino reworks the classic motif in every flavor imaginable, jazzed up with snare and horns, spiced with sitar and mood India, and detonated by Slavic choir and Kremlin with anticipation. It's tradition made thrillingly new. The original material's no slouch either. Tracks like Love the Glove and Express Elevator push tension to the edge with pizzicato strings, pounding percussion, and electric guitar nods to the franchise's TV roots. And when the film slows down, Giacchino delivers heart and cues like Putting the Miss in Mission. This is modern action scoring done right. Bold motifs, real orchestras, and musical storytelling that never stops moving, just like Tom Cruise. Equal parts nostalgic, muscular, and inventive. Ghost Protocol proves that Giacchino knows how to light the fuse and keep it burning. At number 9, I have another tie. Can you guess what it is? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. In Dawn, Giacchino channels the spirit of Jerry Goldsmith's original avant-garde percussion, eerie choir, even prepared piano, but filters it through his own melodic humanist lens. The Great Ape Processional is a highlight, regal, mournful, and soaring all at once, perfectly capturing Caesar's rise. By the time we reach War, the score matures with character. Caesar's theme deepens into something elegiac, brass and strings, full of grief, rage, and fragile hope. Cues like Exodus Wounds and An Ode to Nova ache with emotion, while the action tracks pulse with Ennio Morricone energy and militaristic dread. Both scores showcase Giacchino at his most sophisticated and experimental. He blends primal textures with heartfelt themes, nods to the franchise's history with prepared piano and tribal percussion, and still finds room for beauty in the rubble. More than just ape action, these are tragic operas about civilization, loyalty, and loss, and Giacchino's music gives them a soul. At number 8, I have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Scoring Star Wars is like stepping into the cantina. Everyone's watching, and you'd better play something memorable. With just 4 weeks to deliver, Giacchino didn't just rise to the challenge, he gave the galaxy a score that's both reverent and refreshingly his own. At its heart is Jin's theme, a 6-note arc of defiance, grief, and grace. From quiet piano in The Long Ride Ahead to full-blown orchestral catharsis in Your Father Would Be Proud, it anchors the film with emotional clarity. Then there's the hope theme, a rising melodic force tied to rebellion, sacrifice, and that final desperate spark. These motifs weave throughout the score, often blending and overlapping as the mission and characters evolve. Giacchino also drops in a militaristic Krennic motif, a spiritual force chant for Chirrut and Baze, and just the right amount of John Williams DNA. Force theme here, rebel fanfare there, without leaning on nostalgia as a crutch. The orchestration is pure symphonic firepower, sweeping strings, thunderous timpani, and an 80-voice choir lend real scale to the tragedy. Tracks like At Act Assault and Master Switch go toe-to-toe with the saga's best action music, emotional, propulsive, and deeply respectful. Rogue One proves that Giacchino can honor a legend and still leave his own signature on the stars. At number 7, I have the first of a few Pixar films, Inside Out. Few scores capture emotion with the grace and restraint of Inside Out. Giacchino doesn't just write for the feelings, he writes from them. At the center is joy's theme. First introduced in Bundle of Joy, it's delicate solo piano, light strings, harp, and even glass bowls, like a melody that could shatter if you breathed on it. But as the film unfolds, the theme grows richer, tinged with sadness, complexity, memory. You'll also hear themes for Bing Bong, Riley, and the other emotional realms, each styled with whimsical orchestration, jazz for the forgetters, a circus march for Imagination Land, and yes, even a faux gum jingle that refuses to die. And the genre hopping mirrors Riley's mind, a place of chaos, wonder, and growing pains. But what really sets Inside Out apart is how quiet it is. Giacchino holds back. The music breathes, it lingers, and when it lands, like in Tears of Joy, it hurts in the best possible way. This isn't just a Pixar score, it's Giacchino's most personal, a gentle masterpiece about growing up, letting go, and feeling everything all at once. At number 6, I have Jurassic World. How do you follow one of the most iconic film scores of all time? Well, if you're Giacchino, you don't just follow it, you evolve it. Giacchino's Jurassic World score walks a tightrope between nostalgia and novelty. His main theme, introduced as the Jurassic World turns, is a sweeping brass and string spectacle, bold enough to stand beside John Williams, but carrying its own heroic DNA. There's also a family theme, gentle, sincere, that humanizes the chaos, while the terrifying Indominus Rex motif creeps in with eerie harp and low winds before detonating into full orchestral terror. And yes, Williams is here, most notably in Welcome to Jurassic World, where the classic theme gets a grand reprise that'll make longtime fans tear up. But this isn't just a remix. Giacchino adds tribal percussion, choir, unexpected textures like stabbing piano and even cowbell, and full throttle action cues like chasing the dragons that roar with modern blockbuster energy. With deep respect and bold invention, Jurassic World proves that Giacchino isn't just revisiting the park, he's building it all over again in music. At number 5, I have The Batman. Giacchino trades superhero fanfare for noir dread, and the result is a brooding gothic masterwork. At its core is a 4-note main theme, deceptively simple but absolutely relentless. First heard in muted piano, it grows into a thunderous force. Strings, brass, and choir building layer by layer into something operatic. It's Batman as symbol, obsession, myth. But this score isn't just brute force, there's elegance too. A Wayne Gotham theme, lush and tragic, that humanizes the mask. A Riddler motif, cold and creeping, that mutates into chaos. And a romantic, bluesy line for Catwoman all-noir jazz and melancholic piano. Giacchino uses electric guitar, tubular bells, even church organ to paint Gotham in shades of rain and ruin. Tracks like The Riddler and A Flood of Terrors pulse with menace and slow burn tension, while Tears and Funeral and Far Between bring surprising emotional depth. And then there's the end credits suite, a full thematic summation as chilling as it is satisfying, dark, stylish, and endlessly listenable. The Batman redefines what a superhero score can be: more detective than demigod, more myth than man. And number 4, I have the Star Trek reboot from 2009. Here, Giacchino did something bold. He launched a new sonic era for one of the most storied franchises in science fiction and stuck the landing at warp speed. His main theme, first heard in Enterprising Young Men, is a brass-driven juggernaut, heroic, propulsive, instantly memorable. It captures the optimism and swagger of a crew finding its purpose, and it's since become the musical identity of the Kelvin timeline. But this isn't just spacefaring bombast. Giacchino threads in melancholy and menace, with Nero's villainous motif rendered on erhu and brass for otherworldly menace. And Spock's theme, subtle, introspective, often led by strings and winds, adds emotional dimension to the logic-driven Vulcan. From tender elegies like Labor of Love to full-throttle battles in the final blast of the original series fanfare in the end credits, Giacchino blends nostalgia, novelty, and orchestral power in a score that's equal parts bold reinvention and heartfelt tribute. Epic, energetic, and emotionally resonant, Star Trek isn't just one of Giacchino's best, it's one of the best sci-fi scores of the 21st century. Engage. Now we're in the top 3. At number 3, I have Ratatouille. What does Paris sound like when a rat dreams of becoming a chef? According to Giacchino, it sounds like accordion-led gypsy jazz with playful whistling, strings that swoon like red wine, and melodies so warm and fragrant they practically smell like fresh baguettes. Ratatouille isn't just one of Pixar's most beloved films, it's a musical feast and one of Giacchino's greatest achievements. At the heart of it is Remy's dual identity, captured through two distinct themes, one for his lofty chef's dreams, elegant, lyrical, full of yearning, and the other for his life in the shadows, all sly brass and jazzy mischief. These opposing ideas are stitched together with remarkable finesse. And then there's Le Festin, a bittersweet chanson song by Camille, which floats through the film like a culinary prayer. Its melody returns again and again, reshaped and revoiced, anchoring Remy's story of hope and hunger, literal and metaphorical. From wall rats and frantic kitchen slapstick scored with classic Mickey Mousing precision to sweeping end credits that reprise every theme like a Parisian jazz symphony. Giacchino gives each moment a unique flavor. Even the textures of food are hinted at in the music. Rich harmonies for cheese, bright flute runs for fruit. And the best part, it all works as a standalone listen. This score isn't just adorable, it's elegant, witty, and emotionally nourishing like a great meal. Ratatouille leaves you satisfied, uplifted, and maybe even a little misty-eyed. A rat, a dream, and the sounds of Paris. This score proves that anyone, even a rodent, can cook, and that Giacchino can turn even the tiniest creature's story into a full-course musical masterpiece. At number 2, I have fittingly another tie, The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2. You know a score is powerful when it makes spandex, suburbia, and midlife crises feel like a Bond movie. With The Incredibles, Giacchino didn't just write a superhero score, he invented a whole sound for the Parr family. Part spy caper, part 60s jazz explosion, part brass-fueled kinetic frenzy. It's bold, it's brassy, it's bursting at the seams with retro swagger. Let's talk themes. The Incredibles' main motif is as iconic as superhero themes get. Think Bond meets Mancini meets Saturday morning cartoon. Crank to 11. Then there's Dash's theme, pure musical speed, rapid fire trumpets and percussion driving the track 100-mile dash like a caffeinated jazz chase. The Syndrome's theme, creepy cool and evolving, mirroring his fanboy turned villain arc. But Giacchino doesn't stop at homage, he gives it a twist. This isn't dusty pastiche, it's recorded on analog tape for that vintage warmth but played with modern dynamism. It swings and soars. Then 14 years later, Incredibles 2 picked up right where we left off, literally mid-scene, and the music never misses a beat. Giacchino keeps the original themes alive, but spices things up. Elastigirl gets her own brass-powered big band motif. Slick, confident, flexible. Screenslaver brings eerie, Bernard Herrmann-style suspense with tremolo strings and warped electronics. Oh, and let's not forget the musical jingles. Each hero gets his own vintage-style theme songs, like they're stars of a Saturday morning cartoon. It's brilliant, meta, and catchy as hell. The Incredibles scores are textbook Giacchino, hyper-thematic, endlessly inventive, and impossible to sit still while listening to. These aren't just some of the best superhero soundtracks ever made, they're two of the most fun scores in modern cinema, period. Brass-heavy, rhythm-driven, and cool enough to wear sunglasses indoors. Giacchino's incredible sound world is still unmatched, and that's saying something considering what's coming in at number 1. Up from 2009. If music can make you laugh, cry, and soar, sometimes all the same cue. Then Up is the soundtrack equivalent of a masterclass in emotional storytelling. Giacchino's Up score isn't just his most celebrated, it's his most complete. From its Oscar and Grammy-winning centerpiece, Married Life, to its whimsical chase music and soaring adventure cues, Up is the rare film score that hits you straight in the heart and leaves you humming. Let's talk about LA's theme, because we all know that's where the waterworks begin. Introduced as a nostalgic waltz, it morphs across the film to reflect Carl's journey through grief, memory, and renewal. Sometimes it's playful, sometimes it's heartbreakingly bare, but it always speaks with clarity and soul. As Carl ties those balloons to his house and floats into the unknown, Giacchino lifts us up with adventure themes full of wonder and flight. Like Carl goes up and up with end credits, there's big brass, jazzy licks, swirling woodwinds, and just enough sparkle from harp and vibraphone to make everything feel airborne. This isn't just a good score. It's a great score, crafted with operatic precision. Each character has their motif, each emotion has a sound, and some scenes are carried entirely by music. Married Life alone has become a modern standard, instantly recognizable and universally felt, and for good reason. It's not just pretty, it's emotionally true. The Up soundtrack swept every major award: Oscar, Grammy, BAFTA, Golden Globe, and it did it without bombast. Giacchino proved that subtlety, warmth, and lyrical storytelling can be just as powerful as superhero fanfare. With Up, Giacchino didn't just write music for a film, he wrote a symphony for the human heart. No explosions, no intergalactic stakes, just love, loss, and adventure. A house on strings. And that's why Up floats to the top as the greatest score in Michael Giacchino's career so far. So there you have it, my 15 standout scores, or plus a few ties, of course, from Michael Giacchino. But now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Giacchino score? Drop your picks in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming next on Soundtrack Collector. I've got lots more in store, especially these kinds of top 15 composer countdowns, as well as some genre browsing. Okay, until next time, keep listening, keep collecting great soundtrack music.